Right. Wonderful. We can start our session. Hello, everyone. My name is Esther Schmidt. I'm the director of the Center for Historic Houses. I'm in India. I'm very excited about this event. This is day 3 of our program, Great Minds in Heritage and Historic Houses. Today, we've got our education panel with museum pedagogy at the Frick Collection to exciting digital learning opportunities at the Smithsonian Digital Learning Lab, education for the art market at Sotheby's Institute of Art, and to a reflection on new audiences at historic houses as part of the Oxford University Heritage Network, and new concepts of heritage management at the Center for Heritage Management at Ahmedabad University. So this is a kind of mini conference that we've spread out over several days. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about what happened before. You might be surprised that there is no overall thematic approach for our lecture series, but the reason behind the title, Great Minds in Heritage and Historic Houses, is that the historic houses themselves and those who care for them are meant to be the focal point of our discussion. In our lecture series, we have invited people who have made important contributions in thinking and writing about or caring for historic houses, their collections, and the people associated with them. Others have been active in ensuring their existence through concrete efforts of conversation, management, interpretation, and reinterpretation, or through new design efforts or adaptive reuse. Their work, our work, is meaningful, but also because of how communities are affected by these initiatives. In many conversations with owners of historic houses, the concept of community and the relevance of community has fundamentally changed during the pandemic. Recent debates from the pandemic to political events have caused us all to rethink our roles and the purpose and contributions of the historic houses or the institutions we are associated with, and to what extent we need to rediscover or possibly revise some of these original ideas. Yesterday, in our curation panel, we heard about the little-known Asian art collection at the Louvre. For those of you familiar with Asian art in France, you will know that Asian art in Paris is found primarily at the Musée Guimet. Asian art objects at the Louvre are those with specific European connections, for example, Chinese wares with bronze mounts. The Louvre also houses the fantastic collection of Marie Antoinette's lacquer boxes, part of which are also at Versailles. A collection she inherited from her mother, Maria Theresia, ruler of the House of Habsburg, and later expanded on her own. Other highly rare objects of exceptional beauty belong to specific collections. And I really want to emphasize that despite all the political context, I think we still need this kind of sense of awe and wonder about the objects themselves. Objects can resurface in different contexts, in different periods. They can assume different meanings, enter into unique relationships with their new owners. And unlocking these hidden histories and their significance needs to incorporate multiple narratives. With Janice Canada's interpretation of colonial Williamsburg and her analysis of the invisible history related to slavery, we continue to explore how the story of objects relates to the owner as well as to the larger context. Whose stories do we tell? And what stories do we tell? And perhaps, Loki, you can share some of the slides that I sent you if you have them.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thanks. And if we focus on one of them, in one of the narratives, how do we ensure that one narrative doesn't overpower the multiple stories that are part of every historic house? Thank you. So this is the overview of the lecture series. Perhaps you can go to the next slide, please. Yes, so this is what I mean. So here we have Mahmoudabad estate, and this is also the story of loss. It is also the story of partition. It is one of these invisible stories that I mentioned earlier. And almost everything is gone in this house, except a few collection of books that are in a very poor condition. We also have very challenging climate here in India. And these books are currently digitized as part of a British Library project. And on the right, you see a fantastic museum. It's one of the best collections of 18th century French furniture at the Musée Nicene du Camondo in Paris. But when you go there, you probably come across a photograph of this lady there on horse, Beatrice du Camondo. And she grew up in that house, and then that whole house was donated and opened to the public by her relatives in 1936. And in 1944, she was killed at Auschwitz. So how do we deal with this? We have this collection of 18th century furniture, but we also have the story of the owner and the owners associated with that. Or what you see here on the left, how is this related to colonialism? This is something that Sir Edwin Lutyens designed for the nursery at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the former vice-regal palace. How is this connected to colonialism? What story can we tell, or what other stories? What inspired the design? Is this also part of the design history, unrelated to political events? Thank you. Sorry, let me just. So Loki, thank you. If you can stop sharing, please, because I won't be able to see my screen with the text. Thank you. Right. So we looked at these different contexts in Invisible Histories yesterday in the magnificent displays of the Hillwood Estate in the US, of a collection closely linked to Marjorie Merriweather Post, who bought the estate in 1955, and her collection of 18th century decorative arts and Russian imperial art. Curator Rebecca Tills highlighted the innovative curatorial practice to juxtapose the permanent collection with changing exhibitions in response to the taste and persona of the original owner, but also to current concerns. Hillwood Estate is participating in several partnerships and collaborative projects, including research on their Reasoner collection of furniture with the Wallace collection in London. The purpose behind our lecture series is to build bridges. We are currently establishing a network of historic house museums in India with a particular focus on palace museums and forts. And we were very excited to have had a presentation about City Palace Museum in Jaipur, presented by Mrinalini Venkateswaran. By building bridges, I'm referring to a discussion between Asia and the West, although much needed, and not only in connection with the past in the context of colonialism, but also in ways forward and meaningful collaborations to create constructive futures. However, by building bridges, I'm also referring to the various stakeholders involved in the care, promotion, revival, and interpretation of historic houses. Sometimes these roles and discourses can differ profoundly and can be at odds with each other. Let us listen to these different voices. Let us not forget to celebrate what brought us to the study and care of historic buildings and heritage in the first place, our curiosity and passion for them. And I'd like to finish this short introduction with the quotation that we just heard recently by the owner of Palazzo Parisio in Malta, who, in our view, they started some of the most innovative responses to the pandemic. And she said, "I'm really grateful to what my grandfather left with us, with this palazzo, but let's get on with it.